Hello there, everybody. How you doing? My name is Mike, and let's continue this playthrough of Dark Souls 2. We're going to be going for the Mirror Knight boss. He's technically known as the Looking Glass Knight boss, but that isn't as catchy to me as the Mirror Knight. I should also mention that before, when I quit out of the game on this elevator, when I loaded it back in, I was at the very top of the elevator, and this was all the way at the bottom. I had to wait for it to go back up. Just thought I'd mention that. This next room has some very interesting enemies in them. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but they are some sort of stone soldier, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but they are king soldiers, and they have horse heads, like chess piece horse heads. You can see them right here. And if you go up to them before they start moving, only the ones that have heads will attack you. Before they start moving, if you hit them, they will go down really fast in like a couple of hits, even with a weak weapon. These guys are very agile, very quick. They use twin blades, and they have very martial artsy kind of moves. See right there? They are a significant challenge only in New Game Plus, though, I think. Outside of that, they're not that bad. And I don't think they have an aggro threshold past this door. It's like there's something special about the door that they don't want to go past. They have to guard the king's little king's chamber here. They're also wearing some incredibly cool armor. In fact, it's my favorite armor in Dark Souls 2, called the Llewellyn armor. And it looks pitch black, and it makes you look like Guts during his black swordsman phase. And I'm trying to get it now, but I'll probably just come back and farm it later. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. If you want to take these guys out very fast, if you come in here and you know exactly where they are, if you memorize which ones, the ones that have heads, even if you can't quite see them, because you can't quite see the ones that have heads in the distance, you can just nail them with arrows from here and take, I think, all 4 of them out, or at least 3 before any of them aggro. And you don't have to fight them at all. But I don't believe you can get any drops from doing that. So that's why I was a little nervous about doing it. Also, there's a Cyan Knight at the end of the hallway, because, you know, I mean, why not, right? Why not have another guy at the end of the hallway? We already have enemies, let's have another one. We can also find some cool stuff in this place. This is maybe Twinkling? No, it's a life gem. I think there might be either Twinkling Titanite or petrified dragon boners around. This might be it. Yes, it is, Twinkling Titanite. It's pretty cool. This next boss we're about to fight, the Mirror Knight, is a really cool idea that they first did in Demon Souls. And what the idea is that in this boss, he will summon in a player character for you to fight during the boss fight. So you have to fight him and the player character. Now, this was originally done, I think, to less effect in Demon Souls, because there was a boss fight called the Old Monk, and essentially what it was is if a player character left an invasion... No, what was it? I don't remember the conditions, but a player character could be summoned in. Maybe only maybe they just had to be in, alive. Maybe that's all that it had to be. Could be summoned in to the boss fight room for you to fight as the boss. But there really wasn't any boss at all. It was just that guy. That's really all it was. However, in this one, there is a boss plus a player character. The Looking Glass Knight is just a giant armored dude. That's pretty much all he is. That's all he is, and that's all he's ever gonna be. He has a huge sword, and he's called a Mirror Knight because he carries his shield is a gigantic mirror. And you just have to see it to believe it. But it is absolutely... It looks kind of ridiculous, and you can actually get this shield. Always dodge, just like the beginning of the Ruined Sentinel fight. There's really nothing you can do there. And the shield makes it very hard to hit him, because even when he's not blocking with it, it can still sort of hit you at... you can still knock against it, depending on what angle you're coming at him from. Usually, if you're going to be invaded by a player character, that makes this boss very challenging. especially obviously if the player character knows what they're doing. But it also makes it more exciting. Now, if there are no player characters that invade, then he will just summon in a random NPC character. I think one has a great sword, and the other one has a spear, maybe, and you can get either one. Or maybe there's just one with the great sword, I don't remember. Usually if it was a player character that was going to be summoned, he would have done it already. I think he tends to do that earlier. He also has electricity on his sword, obviously, as you just saw. His armor is pretty cool. If you want to be summoned into here to fight this guy, what you have to do is leave an invasion sign earlier on in Castle Drangleic. Sorry about that. Another problem recording. But anyway, this is the Shrine of Amana. This is notorious for being one of the most hated areas of all of Dark Souls, and I hate it quite a bit too, but before we talk about why we should hate it, it is beautiful. It really looks good, it has a good style, there's a uniqueness to it that I really enjoy. I think the place just looks incredible. Too bad that the gameplay is so heinous and unpleasant. But let's take a look down here. I was already in here during my little attempt to record here before, but if you strike this area here where there is a soul item, it will fall down below, and it is Twinkling Titanite, and very important. Down there, we can find some, I believe, some Skeptic's Spice, and one of those horrible little beetle mushroom monster guys from the, where is it called? Harvest Valley, that I think we first saw, or maybe Earthen Peak. Except these guys shoot equipment degradation instead of poison, so they're considerably more annoying. Now, this area is really obnoxious for a couple of reasons, mainly because of the pits. If you just take a look down here, this place is in the middle of a huge swamp or lake. I think they wanted to give it the impression of a swamp, but it doesn't quite come away as that. It doesn't feel like Blighttown did, or the Valley of Defilement did. It's a little too pretty, and we're going through water and not sort of marshy swamp muck. And most of what we see out there is emptiness. Think of this area as a series of long platforms, of bridges, through essentially a complete abyss, because that's all that is down there. That's it. It's just emptiness. There's just nothing. And aside from those platformy areas that we can walk on, there's really no place for you to go. So falling to your death is very, very easy, and this is an area where using a torch might be necessary, because you may fall and you really don't know exactly where to stand unless you hold the camera like this and are constantly looking down, which does not make the gameplay fun by any means. It's just irritating. Now, if you take a look over there, you will see some strange sparkly lights or something coming up over there, and that is actually supposed to be pollen, I believe, and it signifies that underneath there is one of the enemies of this game, of this area, in Aqua Hollow, as I call them. I think they are called aquatic hollows, and they really are just hollows, just like the standard zombies we've been fighting, except they've been living in water so long. There's a soul item over here I already got on that corpse there. And I think these are just hollows that have been living in damp conditions for too long, and that's why they're coming over here. Now, if you can take a look over there, you can see one of the Archdrakes, one of the Archdrake clerics. They actually have the starting cleric set, and they actually have the helmet to it, which you don't get when you start the game for some reason, so if you want to get it, you can get it here. These guys are not especially tough, but it's really just them in combination of the place they are in, and the fact that you have to fight them, as you'll see here, sort of in the middle of water. The original Dark Souls, unlike this game and Demon Souls, had a special ring called the Rusted Iron Ring, and if you put it on, you moved normally if you were in, you know, wet conditions like this. Ooh, Twinkling Titanite. And that was very, very useful for going through some areas of the game. But here, you don't get that. You just have to have your speed slowed down. You just have to have it slowed down during these areas. And that can make fighting these guys or running away from them, if they're scaring you, to be very difficult. The Aqua Hollows are at bay, are at bay now. Because if you hear in the background, I'll let it play for a second. Kind of singing going on back there, and that's keeping them at bay with that pollen somehow. But usually when you're fighting these guys, you really ought to try to cheese them at range, because that's the best way to take them out. Not because they're overly difficult, but because you sometimes have to fight these guys in conjunction with other enemies, and like with the clerics, they're near the edge of the water. If you take a look here, looking directly down, safe space, safe space, safe space, safe space, safe space, and then right there, the edge. Usually we don't get this much land to walk on between the path above water and this. It's usually a lot less. So just be very, very careful. You really should just picture this place, as I said, as platforms surrounded by blackness. Not quite like the Tower of Latria, because they're a little wider than that. This is deceptive. It may seem better to have this little extra area over here, but it actually makes you a little bit less cautious than you should be, especially if you're rolling around trying to dodge enemies. The pollen went away because the singing stopped. There's mysteriously a curse jar over here. Why that is, I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Shouldn't be there. Just think this is rouge water. Crimson water. That's like a fancy version of rouge water. But let's go in here and talk to one of the women that embedded guy was chained up next to. They are called Milfanito.
We knew you were coming. And stop singing. We are Milfanito. We are here to sing to those bound by death and dark. We will sing here forever, as we always have, from long, long ago. We know nothing of the world outside. And why should we? For we will never leave. Do you seek King Vendrick? But what is a king, after all? We know nothing of the world outside, for we will never leave here. When we sing, the little ones dance. The little ones grant comfort to those who bear death and dark. This is what we were taught. Is there anything wrong? Perhaps this will help. This is all that we can do.
Milfanitos, and the name of the Lord of Death, the God of Death in Dark Souls 1, was Nito. So they are related to him in some way. There's also a statue that we can find much later in the level that looks a heck of a lot like Nito. So he's all over this place. And this is another point. They're just throwing us a bunch of stuff that, to me, honestly, this worked, and it still works. I think this is very effective lore. It's creepy, it's weird, it's mysterious, it's bizarre. I think this is actually very effectively done. You notice her eyes are closed there. Maybe, is she blind or something? I don't think so, but anyway. What exactly are these things? They have the voice of an adult woman, but they look sort of like children, or they look like adult women that are oddly proportioned, like they're strangely small compared to us. Or are they sort of children? They kind of remind me of Alice in Wonderland, or some other similar era, like Dorothy Gale type era of young girls' fantasy literature, especially Alice in Wonderland. And again, that's that odd fantasy, like a children's fantasy story element that was getting a little bit more common at this point in the Soul series, unfortunately. Just like the dream god Quella. However, this one actually works because it's creepy and scary, and these guys are creepy and weird, and I have no idea what she was talking about, the little ones dancing. Who are the little ones? And I really don't know. Well, let's go out here. There are a ton more of these Aqua Hollows and Archdrake people. What exactly the Archdrake clerics are doing, I don't know, but the fact that Drake is in their name makes me question them significantly, because the idea of transforming oneself from a human or an undead into a dragon is a pretty heavy part of the later lore of this era, of this game. Try to aggro them one at a time, and in New Game Plus this is much more difficult because there are more of them. I think there are more of them, and there's one of the Shrine Maidens. Oh god. Those things really, really make me mad. I think she'll start singing in a second. Unfortunately, you can't really use a torch in this area to try to see where the water's edge is, because using the torch will aggro the Aqua Hollows. Whether they're with that pollen or not, they will run over and attack you if you are using a torch. So it draws them towards you. So the one part of the game where it might have been useful to have that effing torch, or maybe not one, but, you know, because the gutter was dark, but, you know, second or third, maybe, point where you really could have used that. And, of course, they blew it. You blew it. You can't use the darn torch here because of this stupid Aqua Hollows. They've got a cool little shield there. It's a little like this cleric shield in its size. These guys will frequently drop Twinkling Titanite, and you can actually farm that from these guys. Not that you necessarily need to, because if you have the DLC, because they slap you with so much of it, but, you know, if you need it, you can get it here. Now, these Shrine Maidens are the second group of enemies, just like the ones in Brightstone Cove Seldora, that appear to be divine-based casters at first by their name, but in reality use sorceries, which is perplexing. I think it's just poor writing, you know, they didn't really realize that. Or maybe they're all hexers. They're all filthy hexers. I think this is just dragon charms. It's not that useful. Yeah. Now this first area was a breeze because there are no Shrine Maidens, although there are in New Game Plus. But the next area, oh my god. This next area, there are a bunch of Aqua Hollows that you can take out one by one, because they're sort of lulled to sleep by the pollen. I think there's also some Twinkling Titanite in there, so that's very useful. But the next area, those Shrine Maidens, they all have, just like the Hollowed Mages, or whatever they were, some kind of priestly thing in the Brightstone Cove Seldora, all have Homing Soul Arrow. And this attack, oh dear sweet lord, this attack, it is horrendous. I despise that spell. You saw it in Brightstone Cove Seldora. Well, it is amped up to 100. It's up to 11 in this section. You know, they really, knocked it up a notch. And it is horrible. It is obnoxious. See it right there? It is very difficult to block. There are almost always multiple ones spamming at you with it at the same time. And you just have to memorize exactly where they are and where to hit them. That's all you can do. And fortunately I have memorized it, so I do know where they are, but, you know, oh god. Two hits? Yes, good. You can roll under them as I'm doing here, but it's not easy to do that. I wish spell parrying was useful. Ooh, I can one-shot them if I'm in the sweet spot. Just be careful here. There are Aqua Hollows running around, but I'm not going to do anything about them, because I think I can ignore them. If you see way over there, there is a strange little bit of vine, and beyond that is a door. But we cannot go to that yet until we talk to Vendrick, and, well, do some other stuff. There's also one shooting at me while I'm doing this, so I'm going to retreat quickly. And get a fire seed, actually, so that's kind of nice. There we go. Alrighty. This one I almost always take out with range. It's just easier that way. I brought some bunch of regular life gems around. This reminds me of the DLC, because they always expect you to kind of top yourself off with life gems. If you'll see down over there, that's the door there. Just beyond there's a little bridge there you can go across. But let's start on the long, harsh, dangerous road to, you guessed it. Okay, maybe it didn't. Sunlight Blade. Now this actually isn't a necessary area to go to, and if you're not a faith character, don't worry about going down here. There's not really any point. Because we're about to get a very powerful faith spell called, where are you? Sunlight Blade, that will allow you to attach a lightning attack to your weapon. These guys also do bleed damage, by the way, I forgot to mention. Sort of rake you with their claws, and they have icky tongues sticking out. Now what we're going to do here is hopefully cheese this ogre guy, because, as you know, the Shrine Maidens, by the way, drop Twinkling Titanite too. As you know, those ogres are not to be messed around with, and we just have to be very careful around them. Come on. There we go. This next area also has a shard of, what is it? Estus Flash shard. This is the area where we'd normally go if we were continuing on with the level, but we're not. We're going to be going down this way to get some interesting stuff. I know it's incredibly cheesy to do this, but you know what? These guys are hard enough to fight in a regular, basic area. But to fight them in the Shrine of Amana, that's just, I call, unfair on that. And I know it's kind of why it's like, oh, it's unfair, it's not that. Yeah, well, too bad. It is fricking unfair. It's painfully unfair. Alrighty, there we go. Now this next area, I did put some flame butterflies on me, because I'm not exact. We have to go down a very, very narrow path. And it is not easy to know exactly where to go. In fact, I may fall and have to cut back to this place. There are also multiple Shrine Maidens and Aqua Hollows on this path. So, you see, we're right near the edge. So, we just have to be very, very careful on this area. Where is the first one? You just have to kind of, there's one. I don't know if it's the first one or the second one, but it's one of them. Can I hit him? Yes, I can. Again, I know it's cheesy, but these enemies, man, these enemies are ridiculous. I suppose spell parrying would completely mitigate any damage, but, you know, I mean, there's an Aqua Hollow. You see him there? You just have to get good at figuring out where they are. You can see them just bobbing up above the water. Reminds me of trying to see like a crocodile underneath the water. You can just barely, faintly kind of see them sticking out there. I think this is where you go to get Sunlight Blade. Hopefully this is the second and last one. Ooh, they fell off. Good. I always love to see that. And yeah, I'm gonna have to use a torch to see this, because fuck it, this is not easy. Okay, and Estus Flash Shard, and I believe this is our good friend Sunlight Blade. I'm sorry, that was offensive. Yep, Sunlight Blade. Now there is a very weird halberd that you can get somewhere along this area, but it's so bizarre looking and useless. I never really would go back for it, so I'm going to have to spend a little time looking around to try to find the damn thing. I know it involves a secret door somewhere, and it's a little bit off the beaten track, but, well, oh, you got an Aqua Hollow. Probably the torch drew him over here, and that's why we didn't encounter him before. And, wait, where are we? Okay, I know where I am. Is it over there? Is that where it is? Maybe. There's a hollow. Because there's a kind of a, I don't know if I want to say a troll item, but there's kind of a silly item nearby here that some of you may want to get. It's not totally silly. It's kind of a unique item, you may say. It's actually a pretty princess dress that you can get down around here. This is really the area of death, though. With like, oh, you can see a couple of the Shrine Maidens already in that area. I'm going to just take a quick look down here, just to make sure it's not this way. I don't think it is. No, it's not that way. I might have to go look up where this darn Helix halberd is. Because I don't... God, you shouldn't bother getting it, by the way. I mean, it's pretty useless. It might be down there somewhere. I don't think there are too many hollows down here. Famous last words. I should not have flasked there. Notice if I roll, I lose the torch, obviously. It may be magical, but not magical enough to avoid being soaked in water. What I would really like you to be able to do is to, if you have like a pyromancy glove, to automatically be able to light it from that. Wouldn't that be neat? I don't know why this guy was busy doing something there. Here's a message. Key required ahead. Thought I heard something. Oh, there we go. That's what he meant by key. And... aha. I don't know how people in the guide would have found this when they were making this. It just seems so obscure and off to the side. But there it is, and we will briefly show this ludicrous weapon. I don't even know, I don't think I even have the stats for it. Where is it? There it is. And it looks so bizarre at the tip there, you can see. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. And I think it has sort of like a spear inside of it, kind of. And if you thrust with it two-handed, it'll do something like that. But is that it? Yeah, it's a bizarre weapon. I virtually never use it. But I'm going to head over to where we're going to start off the next area. And the next area really does deserve its own little section because, holy Lord, is it obnoxious. I went through this area so many times at the beginning. I was despawning the Shrine Maidens, so that's like over 10 times. It was that difficult for me. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Fortunately, we do have a friend to come along with us, an NPC summon, but yeah, she's not the best. Anyway, maybe more harm than good, but we're going to bring her along. But until the next time, I will see you then.